All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today we have Nadia McKechnie, and originally from the UK, but you've been in Tokyo for how many years now, Nadia?
30. I only came here for a couple of months, like when I was traveling. I wasn't
Uh,
expecting to stay here 30 years.
doesn't that's always the way? Like for me too, I was 3 years on jet, and then we traveled around Asia and Europe for 2 years, came back in 96, just thinking we'll be here for a little while, but we haven't left. So yeah, over 25 for me too. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, like people. I don't
And
know about you. You expecting to stay so long? I
uh,
wasn't.
no, no, just make a bit of money, go traveling again was the plan. But where in the UK are you originally from?
I'm from London.
Uh-huh.
From London.
Nice.
Have you been?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my husband's from the UK, so I've been a few times. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Where
Um,
is he from? Or where is he from? Is
he moved around. I think he went to university in Bristol, but his parents live up not far from Blackpool, Lytham, St. Anne's, quite a nice area. Yeah, I've been
No,
there a few
Bristol
times.
actually is the most vegan-friendly city in the UK,
I
apparently.
heard that. I heard that. Yeah, I'd love to go back. That was quite a long time ago that we visited, so I'd love to go back now that it's more vegan friendly. And today's talk is really interesting. Maybe you can give more advice outside of Japan as well, because my son is now, he's vegan for over a year now. We were vegetarians for a long time, the whole family. But now he's choosing his university based on what destination is vegan friendly, what university is vegan friendly, and there's so many in the UK. So that was
Hmm.
really interesting.
That's amazing. Well, say hello to him. Like, that's
Yeah.
which university is he going to? Did he choose
He
what?
hasn't chosen yet, and of course now with coronavirus, everything's kind of up in the air. But yeah, it's really interesting. He wants to study sustainability studies, environmental studies, and he's a vegan. So that's a really interesting new change that I think a lot of people, a lot of younger people, are actually taking that into account. Where do they want to live and work? Where do they want to study? And whenever I visit Tokyo, I'm so jealous. You guys have so many wonderful options there, and it's getting better. Well, compared to here, like in
Where did he go?
Hiroshima, yeah, in
Oh,
Hiroshima, I mean,
yeah, okay.
it's not horrible. We have a few places, but whenever I visit Tokyo, it is a real treat to have so many more options. So I'm really excited to talk to you about lots of those options today. So let's give people an introduction. You are organizing for the Tokyo Vegan Meetup group. Can you give us a rundown of the things you
Yeah,
organize?
yeah. Tokyo Vegan Meetup. It's actually a kind of community group. It's been going about maybe 12, 15 years. I'm not quite sure, 14 or 15 years, as some kind of gathering of vegans or vegan friendly people. Um, yeah, it used to be a sort of once a month buffet thing when I first joined. And then it was mostly foreigners, just foreigners having a buffet once a month at the Pink Cow in Roppongi. That was the home of the buffet event once a month on a Thursday. And then about maybe 5 years ago, the old organizer left Japan. And so he said, would anybody else like to be the organizer? So I was like, yay, yay, because I just gone vegan a little while before that, and I love organizing parties and events. It's kind of my hobby. It's always been my kind of thing, and I love being vegan. So I thought that sounds like a nice way to do sort of activism. So I became the organizer. And then around that time, I noticed that there were lots of members that were Japanese, but all the information we had on our site, on the meetup group, all the information was just in English. So I thought, well, why don't I try finding a Japanese co-organizer? And then I found this lovely lady called Saori. She became my co-organizer. And then we sort of thought, well, we have lots of members. There were about maybe 5,000 members at that point. So let's try making more events. So we tried making more events, and the more events we made, just everybody came. Any event we made, it was just full. So we just sort of continued like that for the last few years. And we went from doing social events to cooking to picnics to talk events. We started about 2 years ago. And then we thought, well, at Earth Day Tokyo, there's no outreach, vegan outreach. So why don't we do booths there? And we did booths at other festivals. And from that, we got involved with the Veggie Giren. It's like Veggie Council, like a government, um, a bipartisan sort of committee of politicians and groups which try to promote vegan because there aren't options for the Olympics. So kind of all kinds of things like that. And like, for example, now we're meeting with the environment minister and other ministers and talking to them about sustainability and environment and pandemics and giving talk events for Tokyo Tourism kind of board and so just all kinds of stuff, and it's all volunteer. Everyone involved is completely 100% volunteer. And yeah, that's about it really. That's kind of like, so sort of like a meetup group that's kind of organically morphed into a sort of outreach, activism, lobbying, promotion, vegan promotion project portal.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And so in my over 20 years in Japan, I've definitely noticed more awareness of the vegan, vegetarian, plant-based concept, right? Like
Yeah.
when we were first in Kyushu as vegetarians, we had to learn how to explain in the most difficult way that we couldn't eat, every you had to go through every single ingredient and say, I can't eat this, I can't eat this, I can't eat this. And it was such a nightmare every time. And we were saying saishoku shugisha for years. And even though that's technically correct, that's like a Kyoto style vegan,
Yeah.
that's what they used to be called. Nobody had any awareness of what it was or why someone would do that. And then of course in recent years, at least there's the awareness. So at least when you say it, people say, oh, vegetarian, or oh, vegan, oh, we don't have anything, or but they're easier to change recipes, they're easier to give you something. Anyway, the last 10 years, I would say, has been a bit of progress in terms of awareness.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's true that there has been quite a lot of awareness compared to 10 years ago. But for example, like the Veggie Giren was set up because, the Olympics was going to be hosted in Tokyo. And unless you go to a dedicated, even in Tokyo, unless you go to a dedicated vegan restaurant, which you find looking at up on the app, Happy Cow or something, like you still can't find vegan options in most places. Well, last year that was the situation. So that was kind of why the Veggie Council started up, because we were going to have the Olympics, and what will all inbound tourists do when they try to pop into the Starbucks or, the McDonald's or something, or the local family restaurant, and there's nothing for them. So I think although we do have much, of course, we have improved. We're not anywhere like on a par with other developed, can I say developed nations? For
Mm-hmm.
example, big cities like London, Paris, New York, Barcelona. I don't know. We're sort of not anywhere near having the vegan options that are available in those kind of areas. And there are so many issues that I've learned about from doing all the vegan events and meeting so many people. For example, many of the vegan people I meet, the Japanese vegans I meet at the events, are in the closet about veganism. Have you found that too? Even if
Yes.
they don't tell anybody?
Absolutely. And then I recently had a really interesting talk with a couple who run an organic farm and cafe in Chiba, and called the Hive and Barrow. And they also have ready-made soups and items which they sell in select grocery stores in Tokyo. And I was asking, so is that vegan? Is that vegan? And it was, but she's not putting the label on it. even, and I said, you would do people such a good service. I mean, she has the idea, which I think a lot of people do, is I'm just doing it. It happens to be vegan, but I'm just doing it the way I want to do it because it's healthy and it tastes good and I don't need to add anything. And so there's that problem of, but people who don't, who are really strict vegan, they don't really trust it unless it says clearly this is vegan, right?
Just makes it easier to find, and also it means we can find the products more easily. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard, like this week, Doctor
Mm-hmm.
Coffee, they've released a plant-based burger. But it took like so many people, like the press release all said plant-based, no animal ingredients, but still we all had to telephone them and ask the staff multiple times before we could actually trust that it was vegan, because there's doesn't even say plant-based or vegan on it. And then this happens so many times, like, somebody will release a product, but it doesn't say if it contains animal ingredients or not. So we all have to spend all our time trying to figure it out, which is silly because they're missing the market,
Yeah.
the plant market as well. And also, because there's no vegan labels on things, vegan doesn't, and plant-based too, doesn't have the visibility that it has in other countries. People can't say, oh, that says vegan, and then they might say, oh, that says vegan, I wonder what vegan is. We don't have that kind of visibility too. So there's two
Mm-hmm.
issues going on, I think.
Yeah,
Mm.
you did like you sent me Marude cheese. There are some products in Japan which have a very clear vegan
Yeah.
label. So it is coming, but there's not a like an international standard vegan label, which would help, right? Like if you had the international standard V mark like you see in the UK, that would really help people because then it's very clear, very easy to understand. But that's kind of a problem in Japan. You have lots of different brands doing their own labels, right?
Mm.
So, but I really want to hear about your government meeting. Tell me about your work with the government. It's really exciting.
Well, again, I think the Veggie Council started last October. But basically what happened was, I think Meat Free Monday organizer, he knows a lot of people involved in politics, and he spoke with some politicians, and basically a committee was set up called Veggie Committee. Just a bunch of politicians from different parties all got together, and then a bunch of vegan related projects and groups. For example, Veggie Project, Vegetarian Society of Japan, Veggie Well, a kind of vegan related website. And I was invited because, I'm organizer of this really big group, and a lot of people are in it are foreigners. And the project was based on around the fact that there aren't options or labeling for the inbound tourists coming for the Olympics. So they invited me to take part. And basically, at the first meeting, we just all got together, and every group just gave them some information about veganism. And what we did as our group, we thought what would be useful, we translated, well, I didn't personally, but our members translated the Vegan Society Advice for Caterers pamphlet into Japanese, because we thought that might give them an idea of what something they could make. And anyway, that was the first meeting. Everybody gave them information about veganism. And then the second meeting, they came back and gave us their ideas of stuff that they could do. The Ministry of Tourism subsequently made information about vegan tourism and numbers and how to make things vegan. And we actually put a link on our website to that. And then a lot of other people from local areas are thinking about how they can promote veganism. But also just the fact that the committee exists meant a lot of press came and covered it, and that gave veganism visibility a boost. So, and now, oh, it's quite long. I'm talking a long time, aren't I? And now, basically, from that, a few months ago, a bunch of us presented the heads of the committee, the Japanese head politicians, with a letter asking for them to include plant-based policies in the green recovery after COVID. And from that meeting, we discovered that the politicians don't have much information about plant-based policies overseas and the reasons why that would be necessary. So then me and my co-organizer, made some information. We just kind of translated and put some information together. And the next thing we're doing is we're translating. There's a group in, I'm sure you know, in the UK called Surge, Earthling Ed, and they made a white paper about pandemics and animal agriculture. So we're translating that into Japanese to give to the politicians. We kind of feel there isn't much lobbying going on. So we're just sort of doing a bit of that too now, but it's all very friendly. It's not like we're like demanding anything. We're just sort of saying, hi, can you do this, please? So it's all very kind of, I'm not quite sure how we're doing that, but you
No,
could get
well,
the impression.
that comes
Yeah,
up
just
a lot in this series about the power of soft pressure in Japan. That asking if things might be possible nicely, right? And just asking is planting a seed in people's minds, and then following up with data, following up with information of what's happening abroad. And the whole
exactly.
idea of the inbound market, and perhaps Japanese products can do better if exported, if you also have a vegan plant-based option. That'll all link to the economy argument, which is more powerful than just help the animals, which is the idea about veganism, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, people have to see the logic or the benefit of doing that. I mean, after being because I'm doing all this activism, I often have to do research for various projects, and I started off like just being vegan for the animals, and then over the last 5 years, of course, there's been a real boom in information. Now I'm vegan for the environment, to stop for health, for pandemics. So there's so many reasons to do it. And it's quite easy to promote. I mean, it's not that easy to get everyone to eat plants, not animals. But I think it's something that governments around the world are starting to promote. And the government in Japan definitely should be promoting plant-based diets, just otherwise there won't be a future, is kind of my feeling. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm much more, and I've talked about this before. You have to make the best choices with what is available in
Mm.
Japan. I think it's really hard to be a very strict vegan or a strict zero waster, or like if you're so rigid in how you're trying to live, it's really difficult, right? But if you are always assessing, where am I? How can I do better? Is there a vegan option? Definitely, I want it. Is there a zero waste option? Definitely, I'm going to choose that. And if not, you ask, is this possible? Is this available, to plant the seed? But it's all like a continual part of the process of doing what you can where you are, right?
Yeah, I mean, veganism is not sort of like a thing about personal perfection, or it's not like it's kind of an end goal, really, isn't it? Sort of, I feel like it's more like live vegan rather than, like go vegan and be vegan and just make a sort of line. I mean, basically every day we have multiple choices when we go shopping. So I feel it's more like just using your consumer power to try to shape the world in the way that seems like nice. I don't know. I mean, I can't see why anybody would not be vegan, to be honest. But it could just be because I'm hanging around with too many vegans. But I wasn't always vegan. Of course, I'm still in the process. I'm probably not. Well, I'm definitely not perfect.
Yeah.
Um, but I just
It's
try to
yeah.
choose as much as I can that. Of course, and I don't sort of say to everybody that comes to vegan meetup, oh, you have to go vegan immediately. It's just about making choices. If you
Yeah.
can't go completely vegan, just sort of, order your pasta without ham on it, or, order and just choose something a little bit different. Choose the vegan option if there is one. If there isn't an option, ask for one. If you cook at home, make a tofu stir fry, not an egg stir fry. It's just sort of small choices constantly, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a journey, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I have met people who say, I came to Japan as a vegan and I had to give up because it's too hard, you know. And I hear, I'm sad for them because you don't have to completely give up. Maybe you have to compromise every now and again, but
No, I mean, literally, people, I hear that sometimes. People say, oh my God, I'm not vegan anymore because I did that. I'm just saying, of course you're vegan. You just like fell off the bandwagon for a
yeah,
sec. Just get back on.
yeah,
It's not like a all nothing thing, is it? I
yeah,
mean, we try to be as vegan as we can, but no one's going to like, it's a personal thing. It's not a religion. No one's going to like beat you up if you're in the middle of nowhere and you eat something with some dashi in it or something because you're
yeah,
starving to death, or your kids are hungry and you're on a road trip and they're like, Mom, can I have that onigiri? And you're like, you can't say, no, it might have some tiny trace in the hidden flavorings. You can't have it, are you? You're just going to say,
yeah,
oh, sure. So, but I think, basically, I think what we're trying to do though at Vegan Meetup and Vegan Tokyo, just trying to present people with the information so that then they can make their own choices freely
yeah,
about about if they want to go vegan. I mean, if you don't know the reasons, why would you do that? Why would you make your life difficult? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's basically what we find the big problem in Japan is lack of information.
yeah,
In the UK, for example, they're advertising pizza on television, or Domino sandwich. They're advertising the vegan sandwich with an environmental message. But in Japan, we don't have anything like that. No, average people, unless they're on my kind of news feed, which is all tailored to vegan stuff, they're not going to get information organically. There needs to be more outreach. In England, every day there are programs on television. BBC has David Attenborough talking about we should stop eating animals, but in Japan we don't have anything like that. That's the biggest problem that we face.
yeah. And I agree. There's a real lack of awareness. Like, why is there a connection to the environment? Why is the and then during coronavirus, if you watch the news and what was happening at meat packing plants in the States, where it becomes a human rights issue as well, because these people were forced to work in really unsafe conditions because people said having meat was an essential thing, whereas anybody who as a research nutrition knows that meat is not essential for a healthy diet, and forcing these people to work in really unhealthy situation adds the people part of the equation to people planet profits in terms of it's not sustainable. We need to take care of people too.
Of course, I mean, it's awful. Like slaughterhouse work is just the worst job you can do. Like I think it's the highest injury rate, terrible, terrible conditions, really unhealthy. It's just not good for anybody, and factory farming too. I had like an interesting experience, just a personal thing. I was when we were doing the Earth Day outreach at Earth Day Tokyo, a teacher from a school outside Japan, outside Tokyo, came up to me and we were talking. I gave him some leaflets, and he was saying that his school is near some farms, like pig farms, and the children, this is before pandemics, the children of the people that the farmers' children, I should say, the farmers' children, after school they were not allowed to play with their friends because of pig cholera. They're not allowed to play. They have to just go to school and go straight home because they're really worried about infection spreading out, like the children bringing infections onto the farm. So even things like the children of farm workers in Japan are having their freedom restricted because their parents are literally in, engaged in a dangerous kind form of agriculture, which probably doesn't pay them very much anyway, because most animal farming doesn't really pay very well. So just a very small example, but that kind of really struck me.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues. During coronavirus, we had the same stigma issue come up with people working in hospitals and their children being stigmatized as well. And don't play with my kid. Oh, your mom's a nurse at the hospital. I'm worried about getting coronavirus. I live in Hiroshima. We understand about how stigma can pass on for generations. So it's horrible for society to have any kind of stigma for sure. I understand it's a job. Like a lot of people talk about the industry. What if everybody stopped eating meat? What would happen to the meat industry? Well, and then in your photos that you sent, you're talking about food equity and food security, and how if people even choose to eat less meat, there would be more food security for more people around the world. I think this is a major reason in the people part of the equation to eat less meat as well.
I mean, of course, I mean, it's not good for anybody. I mean, number one, I mean, one reason we could feed more people. We have enough lands to, if everyone just ate the plants directly, we would have, more enough food for everybody. I mean, animal agriculture is the biggest water polluter of fresh water, deforestation. I mean, it's like just everything. There's like nothing good about it at all. But what we can do as individuals is we can just it's all about supply and demand. I mean, if we just us in rich countries, maybe some people in poor countries can't immediately change to a plant-based diet, but in rich countries we have a choice. We have a choice to shape, what happens in the world. So I don't know. I mean, in our on our website we have why vegan section on our website, and I put like some hyperlinks. I'm not sure if anybody can see them, but for example, it's just a quick look through. It's the second greatest contributor of emissions, greater than animal agriculture, greater than all modes of transportation combined. It uses 20 to 33% of the world's fresh water and is one of the leading causes of deforestation, biodiversity loss, and freshwater pollution. And scientists even warned that our seas could be empty of fish by 2048, just some small couple of little teeny facts. So it's not good for anybody. I mean, that's not going to benefit anybody in any country at all.
Yeah.
Um,
I
there's so
think,
many.
yeah, a lot of, I mean, there's, if you try to look for scientific evidence, you try to read from a wide variety of sources about the meat industry effect, the fishing industry effect on our planet, on the people who work in those industries, and you just try to make a choice that works best for you. I think
Yeah,
that as long as you're trying to do it honestly, and you are trying to have an open mind. I think the problem is a lot of people, they're raised to think you have to have meat and fish to be healthy. I mean, that's the standard thing that I was taught as a
yeah,
kid, and I grew up feeling guilty that I didn't want to eat, animals, and I was so relieved when I grew up and researched nutrition. I was a triathlete looking for protein, and I found plant based protein to be the best for my situation. And I think
definitely.
it has to be a personal choice. You have to get there on your own. You can't force anybody to get there,
Yeah,
right?
people need the information, and they also need to have the options as well. But for example, is it other things on our website we put in is health reasons, personal health,
Mm-hmm.
heart disease, diabetes type 2. I mean, these are the biggest killers. Cancer are the biggest killers at the moment, and they're all linked to animal protein consumption. I mean, a bunch of doctors recently in Britain wrote to the government. They wrote open letter asking them to promote plant-based protein because for that reason, because people are so unhealthy. I mean, public health, we've got apart from coronaviruses, we've got avian pig flu viruses, salmonella, E. coli. They sicken, millions of people every year, either from runoff from factory farms or contamination of meat products.
I
I mean,
mean,
there's lots.
it's like the cotton industry. It's like the argument to buy organic cotton, right? Because your personal body wearing the cotton is not going to have that much effect. But if you buy organic cotton, all the people living around the organic cotton farm are not suffering as much as all the chemicals used in industrial cotton, right? So if you think about all of your products in a loop, right, from start to finish, how is it sourced? What happens after I throw it away? And you take that same argument about the circle for the meat industry or the fishing industry, and you see all the components from start to finish. And then that's a really good argument to concentrate most of your eating on plants. Like
Definitely.
even
Yes.
food waste, right? Like
Yeah.
when you don't eat the animal, you should feel, and I know a lot of Japanese people feel really bad if they order meat and they don't eat it because that's an animal's life, and they do say that. But if it's plants, I just put it back to my garden. There's no guilt.
Exactly. And also the other thing about I was going to say, what were you saying? But I lost my point. It was quite an interesting point to do with that. Oh, mindfulness. Like I read a really nice book. I think it was Jean Bauer, A Living the Farm Sanctuary Way or something, a few years ago. And he mentioned about the nice thing about plant-based eating is that you can be mindful about it. Like if you look at your plate, it's possible for you to look at your plate and think, oh, well, of course we don't do this every day. We just eat it. But oh, this bun was made from wheat grown in this field, and this corn was made from this, and these soybeans were grown in this lovely field, with like sunshine. But if you look at animal products on your plate, if you actually mindfully look at them, you can't do it. This fish was dragged out of the gasping out of the sea, or the fish factory farm, which is where most of them now live, or like if you look at a piece of pork, how can you like mindfully eat that? I mean, I don't think I just think we shouldn't be eating things that we can't think about. If you can't think about where it came from, maybe we shouldn't be eating them. But I
Hmm.
don't like to say shouldn't. I want people to choose for themselves.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
have a couple comments. Oliver says, "What about the health problems associated with veganism?" I'm not
Oh,
sure
which
I know of any. Um,
yeah, if you any, I'd like to. I'd like and talk to you about it if you'd like to. I mean, the only health problem I can think of is people eating too much vegan junk. But then vegan, if you're going to eat like non-vegan junk, like animal-based burger, a vegan burger would still be more healthy.
yeah.
Soy has all been debunked completely. That's not an issue. I can't really think of any other problems,
I
but maybe
mean,
you.
people do sometimes say you're not getting enough minerals in your diet if you have a strict vegan diet. But then there's the argument that where do plants come from? They come from dirt. And what do animals eat? They eat vegetables which comes from dirt, and dirt actually has the mineral. It's not the animal that has the mineral. So anyway, there's
Right.
like interesting arguments. Molly
No,
says fish farms are ruining indigenous waters. We
yeah.
see this a lot with the fishing industry. I'm doing a ocean cleanup this weekend on beautiful Miyajima Island, and the biggest thing we're going to find is the plastic tubes from the oyster industry.
Exactly. I think is it 50% or more, I'm not sure, of the ocean pollution is just discarded fishing tackle. But also fish farms are awful. Like I was doing a talk about SDGs for some high school students a while ago. It was actually vegan and SDGs, and so I looked up lots of information about fish farming, and sometimes 70% of the fish die before they're harvested, just from disease from going around in circles. Fish farm and most of the fish we eat these days is from fish farms. It's terrifying, to be honest. Yeah, I
I,
totally
I
agree.
was I was surprised about that with fish farms because for some reason when I first heard about fish farms I thought, well, maybe it's safer because it wouldn't have the microplastics from the ocean, but actually it's more dangerous because it's usually near the coast and it has a lot more pollution coming from the sewage lines out through the rivers and more concentrated of fertilizer and pesticides and medicines that they give the fish farms. Yeah, I'm really worried about microplastics. Even if you're
Definitely.
vegan, you eat salt, so it affects all of us.
But at least like the salt is lower down the chain, isn't it? I think the worst is things like mercury from, high fatty fish like salmon or tuna. They sort of store more toxins, don't they, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the
Uh,
whole thing is just horrible. I think it's just why bother? I mean, of course, we can think about ways of eating healthier fish or meat at the end of the day, but my feeling the last few years is why bother? I mean, just go for plant-based. It's much more happy in every way, really.
yeah. Oliver says lower bone density and B12 deficiency.
Well, B12 deficiency is very, I was actually talking to a couple of my co-organizers this morning, but I think like more than half the population, vegan or not, are deficient in B12, especially people over 50 anyway. So we should probably all be supplementing B12. The thing about B12, it's sort of like a microbe, isn't it? So in the olden days, people would get B12 just from the soil, but now the animals don't, and now we get it from like B12 from eating animals. We get it basically secondhand. So I think it's just easier just to take a B12 tablet. It's the same synthetic version, whether you eat it via the animal or directly. It's still the same B12 that you're eating. Apart from that, bone density is not an issue. I mean, osteoporosis is a really big issue in Western countries where people eat a lot of consume a lot of dairy, not Japan, where people traditionally had plant-based diets.
Yeah.
Although
When
milk has
when
no
I was when I was pregnant, they actually did a bone density test before and after I had kids each time, and this is over a span of 6 years. And she was convinced, my doctor was convinced that my bone density would be poor because I'm a vegan or vegetarian vegan. And at the time, and it wasn't. I had no problems on a personal level, and I've never met a vegan, especially women. They often worry about not enough calcium, right? But never met anyone with problems, and I've never seen any scientific studies that say that. I think it's just important to keep reading the latest information, right?
I mean, there's so many other health reasons. Like now, a lot of doctors in the UK, for example, don't recommend dairy because of the cancer risk. Breast cancer is just like skyrocketed, and also prostate cancer as well, and also dairy. Like although there's high calcium in dairy, human beings can't. Our bodies become more acid in order to metabolize it, apparently, which is why it leads to osteoporosis. So I think just keep checking the information. We've got quite a few links on our Vegan Tokyo, on our Why Vegan section. I've linked in lots of like hyperlinks. You can probably get information.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to switch more to what's available in Tokyo and in Japan soon. Molly says, I have type 1 diabetes and plant-based proteins help keep it in control better. Thank you,
Oh, great.
Molly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the great vegan options that you introduce on your website and for your group. Recently, you mentioned Dutour. That's quite an interesting one. Also, tell me about the Komeda plant-based kisa. That's very exciting.
Went there last night actually for a business meeting. That was really exciting. The CEO of Komeda, Komeda is the biggest coffee chain in Japan. Right now they don't have vegan options apart from drinks in their other cafes, but they made a whole plant-based kisa in Ginza, and the reason why they made it was because the CEO is concerned about the environment, and he wanted to try something new, a sort of much lower emission cafe. And they basically veganized their whole menu, like that kind of traditional kisa pasta. Did you ever have that years ago, some tomato sauce pasta thing, like that kind of thing, and the pancakes and drinks? It's just amazing, really exciting
So
to show that.
you had a picture of avocado on top of pasta. Is that from Komeda?
Might have been, I don't
Yeah, it
know. It was
looks gorgeous somewhere in
exactly.
Tokyo. I was also very excited to see some vegan ice cream. I've never seen vegan ice cream in Japan.
Oh my God, there's so much vegan. Oh, maybe where you live. Vegan ice cream. You can actually buy a brand, Crashier. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. They sell it in most supermarkets. It's called soy something or other. It's a bit kind of basic, but that's one that they sell anywhere in Japan, I think. Also in Tokyo, we're lucky because we have so many like vegan sweets things. We have like Wired Bonbon and Primash Gelateria. They have amazing vegan ice cream. About half their ice creams are plant-based. I mean, basically, you can make anything out of plants. In the UK, they have everything, don't they? They have Haagen-Dazs and Ben and Jerry's, and all the brands just make their own vegan ice creams now because people want them. In Japan, it's still a bit slow, but we have tons of things on. If you look on Happy Cow, or yeah, you can find lots of stuff.
I'm a big fan of Ein Sof, the
Oh yeah.
Ripple burger. I mean, it's vegan fast food, but then the same chain, they also have really beautiful food at their restaurants as well. And I saw that you have them on your latest seminar, that someone from Ein Sof was talking. How exciting!
Yeah, Yuki-san, actually, we've done quite a few meetups there last year, and the owner of Einsoft, she's absolutely wonderful, really supportive and kind. And but they're, of course, they're a little bit in trouble because of the most of their restaurants are kind of located in tourist areas like Kyoto. But they have amazing food, and also they've also trained up so many chefs over the last 10 years or so on plant-based cuisine. So we have a lot of knowledge of plant-based cuisine in Japan right now.
That's great. Yeah, that was really nice to see. And for your Zoom event, it looked like you had more than 50 people joining.
Yeah, the physical events were great. We normally had around 100 people coming to the physical events, but we're going to start the online talk events again from this month because there's so many interesting people just doing amazing stuff, and that was why we started the talk events in the first place. Like for example, there's Food Facts JP, which have a website all about environmental impact of veganism in Japanese and English. We had like Peace by Vegan, this amazing YouTuber. We had like Yuki Ikeda, who's a plant-based world champion mountain biker. We had vegan influencers. There are so many people doing wonderful things, but not many people know about it. So we want to try and get there, even if we do it online, get the talk event started again. Yeah, we
Yeah,
should do something
that's
you do. Amazing. I love what you do. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you. It's great. It's a passion project during coronavirus. So it's great to see you guys as well transitioning from your in-person events to online. And the benefit of that, of course, is that you can reach a much wider audience anyway.
That's true. We're a bit behind. I mean, what we do in terms of activism is not really reflected on our social media, but we're trying to sort of do something about that from now. I mean, up till now, it's been so much in-person activism. I mean, at the events, people would come and they'd meet each other and they would talk, and that was kind of the main purpose. But of course, we all have to learn to do something different now, don't we?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I love meeting people, so it's really hard. But
Well, I was doing the same. Last year, I was doing a monthly event in person to encourage people to come and eat vegan food on reusable plates and cups and listen to short talks on different sustainability focused talks, which could be about culture or peace or food or anything. And then we had a DIY section where we tried to make some toothpaste or soap or things without having as much waste as the normal thing. And then we had a free cycle exchange. So just having something where people could experience sustainability and that planting that seed that it's not too hard, and then coronavirus happened and I had to cancel all those, but this series kind of grew from that. So it's a wonderful way to expand outside of Hiroshima, and now I'm talking to you in Tokyo. So wonderful.
interview you about all that stuff, and the vegan soap making and stuff sounds amazing. That's
Yeah.
great. Oh, that's so nice. I'd love to. Yeah, we'll have to get you on as well.
Oh, I'd love to join. Please,
Yeah,
please.
we'll have to have a talk event with you, interviewing you about what you're doing. It's amazing. Maybe vegan and sustainability or something would be great. Yeah. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So mine as well went from a in-person event to more online networking, and hopefully people will watch this as well and think, oh, maybe I'll try that, or maybe veganism isn't too hard, or maybe I can try that sustainability thing. Like something. I'm planting seeds, I hope.
I mean, it takes a few times. I mean, most of the people that came to our events or still come to our events are not actually vegan yet, which is fine. They're just interested to find out why people are doing it and what it's about. And, you know, just to choose yourself is our policy. We just try to present the information
Yeah.
in a nice way, in a friendly way.
Yeah, wonderful. I saw you also talked about Greenhouse Company. Uh,
Greenhouse, which
you say they implement a 100% plant-based menu at 11 major corporations to promote sustainable development goals for Vegetable Day by August 30th. And maybe it was just a limited time, but then you wrote, oh, it's so good to see the connection being made between environmentally friendly and veganism.
right, there's a couple of new projects. There's a really great group called run by a friend of mine called Veggie for Peace. And they have lots of information about this. I think that's one of their projects they were dealing with. Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, SDGs is kind of like a buzzword recently in Japan, and lots of companies are trying to sort of make more environmentally friendly menus, and that involves obviously plant-based because plant-based are much more environmentally friendly. Every way you think about it, there's so many interesting things happening right now. Um, I could just go on for hours about this. What do you want to hear about? Anything particular?
I have a picture of vegan donuts. Can you get vegan donuts in Tokyo?
Actually, I've got a pile of. Do you want to see them? I've got a pile
Yes.
of vegan croissants,
Show
and
me. Show me.
second if I can just leave the
Okay.
screen set.
Red Mercury Files, thank you for your comment. Hikoi Simon says that New Zealand has the best sheep in the whole wide world. If we stop farming, we will destroy all those animals and deny the potential for their future descendants to exist. I cannot look Heiko in the face and say, Heiko, we have to destroy your sheep to grow soybeans. It's okay. Hiko Simon, don't cry. Your sheep are going to a better place.
Well,
So,
I think the
I
thing is,
mean,
do you want to
so
mention sheep? Well, I don't sort of want to get into. I think you have to look about what happens to the sheep after, the sheep shearing is rather cruel if you look it up online. They're prey animals. So sheep are kind of programmed to feel fear. So shearing them is actually quite awful. And also, I looked up online about New Zealand. The biggest reason for topsoil loss, ground loss of is actually sheep farming. So although sheep farming looks really pretty and green fields, it's actually not good for the environment if you look at it. Wearing wool is actually not very environmental fabric, and also we have awful problems like live export. I'm not sure if you've seen a lot of the sheep that once they're not useful anymore after a few years, they get stuffed on some ship and sent off to a country with really low welfare standards. And also you've got to remember things like lamb. They're slaughtered really cruelly. So basically, and the individual animals only live a really short time.
yeah,
I mean,
I mean, that's not the main target. The main target, from what I've heard, is not animals which are actually grazing on the fields. That's not the one we need to stop right now. The one we need to stop first is all the factory farming, where the major pollution and the major damage is coming from. And if we can have alternatives like the soy meats, the Impossible Burger, all the alternatives into fast food, especially where all the factory farming is pushing all the proteins in, that would be a really big win in terms of sustainability, right?
whatever you want to do. I mean, my feeling is like anything like animals. I mean, I'm vegan for the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I don't think the individual animals are having a very good life, to
No,
be honest.
yeah.
I don't think they want to be bred into existence just to be killed and used for food and products. So that would be my answer to that. But I can't make anybody go vegan. It's up to everybody what they think, and
Yeah.
I would just like a world where people didn't breed animals for food or
I mean,
for
it
clothing.
it just seems unnecessary waste of energy and effort, and it's like the fossil fuel industry. We should be able to find jobs for people who are working in that now in clean tech, in other industries. There should be more than enough jobs to be able to transition.
I mean, definitely. I mean, I mean, we're not asking, it's not going to happen overnight either. Basically, it's a slow process. So, as consumer behavior changes, then, it's supply and demand. The demand for different products becomes higher, and we get people jobs in different industries. It's not like we're suddenly going to close down everything and just, I mean, it's not going to happen. It's a slow process. So but I would say for anybody that's interested in sheep farming, just look into it, just look it up and see what happens to the animals, and then and see the effect on the environment yourself, and then decide for yourself what you think.
It's like many things too. We think of it as embedded in our culture, like for example, gender equality, saying that
Mm.
women shouldn't work in Japan. Actually, if you look not that far back in history, there were a lot of women working in the States as well. There was a lot more gender equality, and then certain shifts happen in politics and things. I mean, it's not culture is not always set in stone, and it does fluctuate depending on needs of society and needs of environment. So we kind of have to adjust these arguments, I think, and try to work out things which are best for our communities and the planet going forward.
Definitely. But I think if you want to argue that animals will go extinct if we don't eat them anymore, I would just not bother. I can just take them and put them in the farm sanctuary. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that would just be my answer to that question. But I'm quite welcome to email me and discuss more if you like. I don't mind.
You were promoting Tokyo Time Out was teaching people how to cook Japanese foods in a vegan way, and I thought that was really exciting. I hadn't seen that yet during coronavirus, having online lessons.
In Bentoya, there's a company called Bentoya.
Mm-hmm.
The links are all on our website in groups. They offer like really nice vegan cooking lessons. They're really nice people. So there's
Nice,
lots of things available. There's also a lovely lady called Karina's cooking class. She also does vegan cooking lessons.
nice,
We
and
we do sometimes cheap and easy ones, but ours is like community center,
yeah.
30, 1,000 yen.
Did you have some pastries to show me that you just brought?
Can you see those? Not sure
No.
whether.
Oh my goodness. Is that a
Almond,
cinnamon roll? That looks lovely.
and this is cinnamon bun.
So is
But
this
these are
is this you've made it or from a local bakery?
I bought them from it's actually the first completely vegan bakery in Tokyo. It's called Universal Bakes.
Mm-hmm.
I bought them this morning. I
Nice.
went there for the first time this morning. But you can get donuts, like Good Town Donuts in Harajuku. They sell, regular donuts, and also vegan donuts too. So, but it's just amazing because they just taste the same as normal donuts. So
Yeah.
again, it's like, why wouldn't you just eat vegan ones if they taste the same? Because it's much better for the
Yeah.
environment, much
I mean
better.
recently there's been huge leaps in terms of the taste quality. I've
Yes.
been very impressed. I saw you also do events on Meat Free Monday promotion. You guys have a stall. I'm showing the picture here.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we're actually, Paul McCartney, Meat Free Monday is Paul McCartney's project. And so whenever he comes to Japan to do concerts, he always brings his Meat Free Monday booth. Paul McCartney is very concerned about the environment, which is why and also animals too, which is why he's promoting Meat Free Monday. So he brings his Meat Free Monday booth, and then a bunch of us all get together from different veggie groups and give out Paul McCartney's Meat Free Monday leaflets and leaflets for Meat Free Monday All Japan. And also, we gave out our Tokyo vegan ones too to his fans when they come. So, Paul, actually, I got to meet him a couple of years ago, which was really a treat. I got a little meet and greet with him to say thank you. But it was such a treat to do that because his fans are so open to the message. So we're like, Paul McCartney's message for the fans, Paul McCartney's Meat Free Monday, and everyone's like, oh, thank you. And they sort of take the leaflets like a souvenir home with them. And they're all like, oh, Meat Free Monday, I know about that. I like Paul McCartney, yay. And so that's another thing you can do. I mean, Meat Free Monday is actually now plant-based Monday. it's not just meat, it's like no animal products day kind of concept, but it's a good way for people to start whatever works. I'm quite happy, yeah. Start with
That's
one day,
that's great.
one meat,
And in the UK as well, Veganuary was
veganuary.
very popular, and that's actually the moment that my son and I switched from being vegetarians, vegans sometimes, to trying to be strictly vegan. And it was really useful for me because I'm a consultant for tourism destinations and businesses related to travel. And so to suddenly try strictly vegan for a month, and then I've continued since then, but it was a real shock how little there is, you know, compared to going from vegetarian. And I think, oh, there's so few vegetarian things. Going to vegan, you can't buy anything at a bakery, a standard bakery. You really have to adjust where you're shopping, do research, right?
But I found that for me, when I was living in Japan for around 20 years as a vegetarian, and basically I was eating sort of similar things every day. I found I was eating Italian and maybe Indian when I went out, and something with cheese on. But interestingly enough, I found that after going vegan, I began to eat a much more a varied diet, because I found all this like Japanese vegan food. I actually began to eat Japanese food for the first time in like 25 years. Like, Dai's karage, or like all the sort of soba and ramen. And so for me, it was actually much more varied. And I read a really interesting piece of advice when I first went vegan saying, try something new every day, even if it's like a potato chip or a senbei or I don't know, something. Just try some new kind of food every day. And I found it's just so interesting, and it's made me like really fall in love with food. I was not a foodie before, and now I'm pretty much a foodie because I'm like every vegan thing's like, oh, I have to try. So
Yeah.
I think friends say the same thing, that rather they actually end up eating. It takes a while to figure it out, but then you end up with a much more varied and interesting diet than you had in the past, perhaps. So it's one way to
Yeah.
see it.
It's for me, I think I would always default to, if there wasn't anything vegan, I would default to something with dairy, and usually that meant cheese. So since
Mm.
I've been strictly vegan, I've been a lot healthier, and I've lost weight. And there's a lot of the vegetarian stuff that you would eat is the bad stuff, you know. So if you switch to strictly vegan, you've got a lot healthier choices. Molly B says here, I was vegetarian for 4 years and tasted homemade vegan brownies, and I decided I could be vegan. Yeah,
Oh,
that is,
yeah,
that's so
great.
true.
Me too. I had no idea. Like, like now in England, all the chocolate, like Galaxy, and it's a major brand in Britain, Dairy Milk. They're
Is it?
making vegan versions of everything. You've got
No.
vegan,
That's
so
exciting.
you can make anything really, like the
Yeah.
sweets. I think the companies are realizing that's where the market is, and they're all making vegan versions. And yeah, I mean, it took a little while. I bought a really good book. It's called The Naughtiest Vegan Cakes in Town by somebody called Miss Cupcake, a vegan baker from Britain. And it just shows you when you do vegan baking, it ends up with the same taste. You just have to use a different process to make
Hmm.
it. So it's
Yeah.
actually very interesting. You think, oh, okay.
Yeah,
But it tastes the same.
the baker Jamie, who was working with me at the events that I was doing, she was making beautiful vegan cupcakes, vegan meatballs for the poo-poos, the appetizers as we had our event. And she really inspired me to try more vegan and use more chia seeds and water instead of eggs, and just swap out little ingredients. There's actually a lot of hacks, vegan hacks now. If you search YouTube, search Google, you can find so many great recipes where it's actually not that difficult to swap it out now.
I mean, talking about hacks too, you can all, if people are worried about nutrition, because I know some people do worry about getting nutrition, there's so many like small hacks you can use to up the nutritional value, like make a smoothie and chuck in a handful of flax seeds. Then you've got all your omegas for the day. You don't have to eat fish or anything like that. Or you can just like if you make a salad, just they sell little, it's not very sustainable, but you can even buy small packs of chia seeds and little beans, and of course soaking your own and keeping them and putting them on is much better for the environment, but you can use little toppings they
Yeah.
sell in supermarkets in Japan,
And
and if you hand
if you're a Costco member as well, I've got a huge bag of quinoa and a huge bag of, I think it's hemp hearts. And whenever I make bread, I just put that in, and that adds nutrition, right?
and a handful, or shake a little bit of cashew nut powder in, get a bag of edamame and some onion and a little bit of stock, and just throw in a handful of cashew nuts powder, and you've got a beautiful edamame like creamy soup. There's all, or like a few walnuts on top of your salad will give you various omegas as well. I mean, there's so many like little things. Just you don't have to eat a giant piece of steak. You can just throw in a few nuts and seeds
Yeah.
and
So
pumpkin seeds or whatever.
so that
Mm.
is our hour. That's it.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. That went
So
so
much.
fast. So
So much
anybody
fun.
who's interested in continuing the discussion and learning more about the great work that Nadia is doing, please follow on Facebook, on Instagram, also the website, tokyovegan.org. Is that right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you
we're going
so
to try.
much, Nadia.
So much, everybody, for your great questions too. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Last comment from Ruzha. Thank you for this lovely conversation. I wish more people would make the connection between veganism and sustainability. Thank you, Ruzha.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. And that's it for this week. We've got more talks next week. We're coming up to a long weekend in Japan, so our talks will resume from next Wednesday. So please join us again. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great long weekend if you're in Japan. Thank you so much, Nadia. Please join us
Thank
again in future. Yeah, we got more to talk about.
I can't. You shut me up. Sorry.
No, no, you're fine.
Talking about vegan stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Easy. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye.